Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to LFC's transfer news stream tonight. My name's Craig. You've seen me before, but I'm got the privilege to be welcomed by Dan. Hello.
Hey, Craig. Good to see you again.
How are you?
Oh, just stuck in my indifferent loser mentality of an FA Cup game on a Sunday afternoon, morning, evening with around 15 centimeters of snow outside, about 6 inches more or less. Like, just another average Sunday in Massachusetts.
So do Jews overreact like we do in the UK, where there's like 15 centimeters of snow and we cry? Like, how does it affect your life with that amount of snow outside?
Oh, in Boston, it's like nothing at this point. Like, like if it's less than like a foot, I'm like, it's nice. It's pretty. You kind of adjust to it. Because I grew up in the southern United States, I got snow every so often. But now that I get so regular, it's like, it's whatever.
We get a couple of flakes here, and that's it. Chaos.
Do you know what is bad though? So we've got I know this isn't what people are tuning in for, but we've got like an electric car, and it just doesn't like the snow.
Yeah.
So the second there's a bit of ice, it just won't have it. So I was due in work a couple of weeks ago, and I couldn't get off the driveway. And with that, there was like the slightest bit of snow. I'm sure we can set up a kind of like side channel for as we discuss the weather. Let's kind of take us off. Stu, how are you?
Oh, I'm fine and dandy. I've accepted today's results already.
Okay.
I have my views and points to make on it, but besides that, it's all good. We're still top of the league. We're still comfortable, so it's all good.
I love the way. How are you? I'm good. Through kind of like gritted team. Well, we'll find out a little bit more later. West, hello.
Hi, Greg. How are you?
Looking cool. How are we getting on?
I still, like, you see, Stu is a bigger person than I am. I still haven't got enough of the result, so I'm still fuming, to be honest. That's why I'm having my cup of tea.
I don't know what's in that cup. I think we can all kind of deal with a bit of that. Before I properly kick off, Leslie, thank you for joining us. Every view is appreciated. Over 500 people have joined us so far in the opening couple of seconds of this, which you've got more kind of inner strength than we do after the game today. Before we kick off properly, I'd like you to kind of just make a concerted effort, if it's okay, to join our YouTube channel, subscribe, hit the notifications so you can see people like Dan, West, Stu bring their Goliath amounts of knowledge as I always kind of introduce them into this game. A couple of people are already saying that the result hurts a little bit. It might be a good place to get going. Dan, did you watch the game?
Of course I watched the game. I missed the first little bit. I missed the first little bit.
That was probably the best. I mean, in fairness, missing it probably wasn't the worst. Kind of like missing a couple of minutes probably wasn't the worst. I wish I missed 90, truth be told.
I missed Joe going off, though. I was a bit confused when I saw that Gomez had left the field and had started as well. No, I mean, I did watch it. It was it reminded me a lot of the FA Cup games we've had in the past, the very recent past. Actually more of a throwback back to Rodgers and back to Klopp's first couple of seasons, when we would have a rotated team with players that needed minutes, and it was just a bit dire. Like, it was just a lack of intensity. It was just a bit. Everything was just a bit meh. Like, it actually reminds me a lot of the Plymouth game we actually played there last time. It was 0-0, and I think they were even League One at the time, or maybe even League Two. They were further down than where they are right now in the championship, even though they're rock bottom of the championship. It was just all a bit like meh. Like, there was no threat in the game from Plymouth. There was no threat from Liverpool. So it felt like very much a game that was going to drag on, and then someone would score a goal in the 80th minute, and we'd all just crack on and go home. So that was the vibe I was getting for most of the game. And then Harvey Elliott forgets what game he's playing for a little bit. And as much as I love we Harvey, I don't think those are allowed in association football, as far as I'm aware. And, you know, it was very much always going to be a 1-goal, 2-goal occasion where whoever scored first determined very much the outcome of that game. Very stop-start. No one was really good. I think a lot of players that played were fine. You know, Endo, Kwanzaa, Kelleher. Obviously, he has to concede the he doesn't save the penalty, but he's fine. I feel like a lot of people they can't live with the fact that something is just like, it's a bit drab, it's a bit crap, but you know, no one was absolutely terrible. People will argue maybe Harvey was the worst one because he concedes the pin. It was just all a bit meh. But then everyone apparently just like meh is like the equivalent of you know, when we got knocked out against Besiktas and Lovren's launching 40-yard shots into the crowd. You know, I remember the dire days. You can even go back to Hodgson and Benitez, end of the Roy Hodgson era. I remember some dark days, and this was just a bit like meh. That's the most you can summarize as well. You know, good for Plymouth Argyle. You know, like we need some magic in the cups, and we really haven't had that in these early rounds probably since that 2014, 2015 when City gets knocked out, Chelsea gets knocked out, and it's a bit of a free-for-all for that season. I think Palace actually ended up in the final that year. Alan Pardews Palace, mind you. So it's just all a bit meh, you know, for the most part. You know, you can't really. I don't think any other reaction is really warranted beyond that.
No, I think Derek sums it up. We got exactly what we deserved. I don't think you'll find any Liverpool fan who kind of gets in touch with us today, or you look online, should really be looking at anything other than that. Stu, before I ask your opinion, I'll read out the starting 11. You can tell me if this was enough on paper to beat Plymouth Argyle. So Kelleher in goal, who had the joint same amount of shots on target as anyone else in the 11, which is a slight concern in it when you goalkeeper is one of our joint top shots on target. Gomez at right back. Then we had Kwanzaa and Endo. Tsimikas, a midfield of Harvey Elliott, James McConnell, and Trey Nyoni, with up front Chiesa, Diego Jota, Luis Diaz. Should that be beating Plymouth?
Yes.
No what are your thoughts on the game?
All I say, on paper, yeah, but we should have beaten them. There's no doubt about it. At the end of the day, we're top of the Premier League. They're bottom of the Championship. That's a big difference.
Yeah.
So there's no doubt we should have won today. But that being said, there are factors that just come into the FA Cup that nobody can explain. That's why they call it the magic of the FA Cup. It's just one of those things. Human beings, they have off days. That happens as well. I think what disappoints me the most is that the way I look at it now for the rest of the season, there's not that many games left when you think about it for cup competitions. Yeah. We got a cup final and we got 2 knockout round games, which potentially we may not go any further. We may do. But now these guys who have played today, they're going to find their game time even more limited.
Yeah.
And it's going to be more difficult for this is another chance for them to prove to say, yeah, okay, I can stick around and be in the squad and be useful to the squad. There were certain players that played today that I was not impressed with at all, namely Tsimikas and Diaz. I think down that left side, it just did not work for whatever reason. But as 2 of the most senior players in the squad today, I expected a lot more from them. And Diaz started off okay, but got progressively worse. Tsimikas just started off as dog shit straight away and didn't get any better. So, yeah, there were glaring errors. I don't know why it didn't click today, but at the same time, maybe it's just proven to slot a little bit more on who he wants to keep come summertime and who he doesn't.
Yeah, it's you know, I know kind of like Dan alluded to years gone by effectively, but it takes an elite professional, doesn't it, to play top level games constantly. And then the second, and the reason this magic of the FA Cup happens, isn't it, is when you get these kind of like rogue fixtures away, where it's kind of like you see the linesman still putting the chalk on the pitch before the team bus turns up and stuff, and then you're having to get yourself up for what is the biggest game of their lives. West, do you enjoy that game?
I agree with that. It was just a mad game, to be honest. Like when when I was watching the game, I thought maybe like we were gonna make it, to be honest. And then like it was for me personally, the penalty was the one that changed the game. If Plymouth didn't score the penalty, I did not see both teams scoring, to be honest. I thought the game might go to extra time. And then like I look at the performances, like he was doing says, like I don't see Elliott starting now. Like to the running of the season. I don't see him starting. So like it was one of those games where I wanted Nunes and Jota to get their scoring puts on so that when they play Everton, they be the ones in the starting lineup instead of Diaz, because like Diaz will be coming against Brentwaite and Chokowski. And I know that it won't be a great battle. But then like I just look at the players, like I expected them to step up and they didn't. Like, I was a bit disappointed. Like I look at Harvey Elliott the most because like we've been all crying for you to play the most. Like cry like Elliott should be starting instead of starting Elliott, and then you go perform like that. You give us a reason not to start you, to be honest. And like for now, speaking for now, I don't think I'll see Elliott in the starting 11, to be honest.
I think it was for me what was well, the whole game was infuriating, but what was infuriating was when Nunes is through. I know he's always an easy target and whatever, but 80th minute gone, ball played through, and it's kind of like bouncing, and he had, I can't even remember who it was, but there was flooding on the back post, and all it would have required is some of that kind of like game intelligence to just have a little look up and drill it, like what Jota did about 5 minutes later, which just kind of like have a little look up and just smash it across the 6-yard box, and we would have been level. But it's that game intelligence in moments like this with Darwin Nunes that really he struggles with, doesn't he? And in that moment when you can, you know, an assist to get through to at least the extra time period, you'd imagine we would have had enough to get through it extra time. That said, we didn't do anything. We had like an XG, wasn't it, of 0.04 of chance to score a goal.
It was
abysmal. The chances that your goalkeeper has the same amount of shot on target as any of your outfield players is also a terrible statistic. Stu, you kind of made reference to there was a couple of players that kind of caught your eye, probably not for the best purpose. Yeah. Who kind of sticks out for you, where you kind of think, and you know, I don't like putting people just to aim people at, but at the same time, people have got to be open to criticism. Where did your eye take you?
As I say, I think Diaz and Tsimikas stuck out for me in the wrong ways for the vast majority. Elliott again, I was disappointed.
Because we all say, don't we? We all say, why is he not getting the game time? So, you know, he's got that like magic wand of a foot. Where suppose when he kind of like comes in for 15 minutes when you're 2-0 up, and he's got a little bit more freedom to have a play. And then in ones like that where he just has to really dig in.
He hasn't. I don't think he's got that defensive mentality, which again could be a little bit of a hindrance in the sort of system that Slot likes to play. He likes to have not just adventurous attacking players, but also defensive-minded players as well. And maybe those rumours during January, maybe there was something to him. I don't know. I don't want to see Elliott go, but I don't misquote me on that at all. I don't want to see Elliott go because I really like the player and I want to see him succeed at Liverpool.
Yeah.
But it's opportunities like these he has to take.
Yeah.
And some of the things that I've seen coming up on social media saying, the pitch wasn't to our liking or anything like that.
Yeah.
These players coming through, you're going to be ended up playing on pitches like this. You can't use that as an excuse. You're all professional players at the end of the day. You all played Sunday League football somewhere. And that you can't use that as an excuse. Elliott had to put in a performance today, and he just didn't. Chiesa, I've seen comments on as well. That's a tougher one for me. Okay, he didn't play well today. I'm not saying that he didn't. But at the same time, he is still trying to get up to speed. There's a bit of a difference with that. And it's Gomez, actually, who I feel most sorry for. I was very surprised to see him in the starting lineup.
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting that.
I don't think there's any news on him though. If it's a re-injured hamstring, or if it's just illness, or it's just he just felt tightness.
A quote before. I think he told Slot when he was going off that he felt something, but it wasn't a tear or anything.
Yeah,
he didn't want to risk it. So to speak.
Yeah. And I mean, if the worst thing is that Gomez gets pulled off early, and it's just more that you just protect him for a week or two, I think is the best option. Yeah. I do think Harvey suffers in this game from the fact that the young players we do play, McConnell's at right back, Trey Neoni's in the midfield, so he's around younger players. He's not playing with like Curtis Jones. Wataru Endo's not is not behind him to help him coach through it. I also think Plymouth did a really good job, partially because of we don't play well, is that they overload. So you mentioned how Diaz stood out and Chiesa. Neither of them were affected this game because they are surrounded by three players. Like Plymouth do a really good job this game at minimizing our wide.
You do raise a good point. I think credit has to go to Plymouth for how they played it out tactically, because they did play it out tactically very, very well.
Yeah, and we know how to beat those. But when that situation, you have to play it faster. You have to be better on the ball. We've had situations like United or other games where we've had our wingers 3-2, they have three defenders around them and they block them out. I just think in this game, I think no one really made smart decisions. I know, Craig, you mentioned the game intelligence of Darwin, there at the end. I think that's perfectly fine criticism. I think that, regardless of any mitigating circumstances, I think everyone has a bad game tactically. I think they all make bad choices. Chiesa makes bad choices. Jota, that ball he plays across, he's playing that ball blindly. He's not even looking up. No one's making the run, has made the run. He's just blindly playing across, which, when you're in that situation, that's what you do because you're gambling, but no one else has made that gamble. So this is just, it's a disjointed team that played disjointedly. Yeah. If you took the FA Cup name out of it, it would just be a preseason game. If this wasn't the FA Cup, we would say this would be it looked like a preseason game for a lot of for a lot of our players for the most part, just trying to, like we said on paper, Jota's coming back from injury. Chiesa still needs to get minutes. And again, I still think Federico Chiesa was effective. He was running, he was pressing, he was still there involved. McConnell is still, developing. Trey Neoni is still 17. I think you see how good he is, but also that he's not physically there just yet. But again, did you see that ball that he played for Chiesa that Chiesa just couldn't get to?
Yeah.
That's an amazing pass. And I think Slot understands. I think he even said in the post-match conference, it's hey, we're in a final. We're at the top of our leagues. Many other sides would be in our position. I don't think Slot's going to take a lot from this game in general. I think what he'll say is, if Harvey's knocking on his door, or if Diaz or Jota or Simic saying, I should get minutes, he can say, look, I gave you minutes, didn't perform what we expect you to. But the players know that. No one needs to be told that you didn't perform well or you didn't play well. They all know what's at stake and what the situation is. And these are kind of the games that you need where, if you look at all the losses we've had this calendar year, we've had 3 calendar losses, which is rare for Liverpool's side. It's the first it's the first part of the semifinal with Tottenham, which everyone was sick. So, everyone thought we were doom and gloom then. It's the 3-2 to PSV Eindhoven. Again, bit of a dead rubber. Dan's is starting. It's mostly a rotated team. And now the FA Cup against Plymouth. If you could choose 3 games to lose in this calendar year, those would probably be the 3 that we would choose. And listen, I know someone's in here has mentioned that Chiesa was awful. Yeah, Chiesa wasn't good. I'm not saying he wasn't, but he's always there involved, and you see what he offers. And again, it's just a side that it didn't click, it didn't gel for 1,000,001 reasons. And we shot ourselves in the foot. You can't play badly and then give away a pen and then try it and then hope to win. And the fact we don't create anything, exactly. And the fact you don't create anything, you're never going to win if you're not creating any chances and you're not keeping the ball and playing with intensity. But we crack on from there. That's really just the reality of the situation.
Yeah, something like 0.04 XG in the game is kind of quite a chilling statistic. And how much do you think that chance is just going to rattle around McConnell's head tonight? The one where it drops down, the keeper comes bombing out. He's got 3/4 of a goal to aim at, and he he just doesn't look up, does he? And that's his youth, isn't it? He doesn't look up. I think most like composed strikers, I know he's not a striker, most composed strikers would kind of like have a little look up, see where everyone is. But you don't get that with young players there.
Yeah, and I mean that's why it's so low too. Is that the chances we had just don't go on target? Like Nunez, I think. The shot you mentioned, like it doesn't go on target. He's trying to shoot across. If it deflects, it could go on target. Even the header he has, I think it's already with Kwanzaa. Like it's floated. He gets his head on. The defender takes a bit of the pace. Goalkeeper can make a save. Like they just don't play well enough to create good chances, and they give Plymouth the statistically the highest chance you can have outside of an open goal, which is a pen, and that's just what happens in these games if you play badly and you give the opposition endless encouragement.
I think it's that bigger picture piece, isn't it? Because as you've said before, under Rafa Benitez, we go out early. Under I'm not saying it's acceptable to go out early. Rodgson, Rafa Benitez, we generally kind of like go out early with our focus being on the Premier League and the majority of the time the Champions League as well. But suppose like if anyone would have said to you at the start of the season that would be have the potential on Wednesday to go 9 points clear.
Take that.
We
every day
top of the Champions League group, and for doing that, you put through. You put a weakened team out in the FA Cup for Plymouth away. I think 99% of our fan base would say absolutely. So there's that bigger picture piece. Come on, Dan, sorry.
Oh, absolutely. No, I was gonna say like if you like this is why I understand the frustration with Liverpool play and being angry, upset. I completely that's perfectly fine. I want Liverpool to win, even though I know we won't win every game. I want us to win every game. That's just I'm a fan. That's what I want.
Yeah.
But if you had offered all of us, and no one would ever deny this, that if you like you said, League Cup final, top of the Prem, with a game in hand, potentially go 9 points clear of Arsenal, not even City, Arsenal. Like, and your City is croaked for this year, for all intents and purposes. Top of your Champions League, the highest points total.
Yeah.
And all of that you get, but you crash out of the fourth round of the FA Cup to Plymouth Argyle. No one's saying, no, I'll never take that in a million years. I won't take that guarantee. Like a guarantee, like you know this is what you're gonna get. No one, maybe 1% of somebody would say, no, I want to win everything. Like you're not winning all four things. It's useless. No. Absolutely. This is where we're at. Listen, I think Lessetti said as well, like the Centurions of City crashed out the Wigan. There's so many examples of great teams with great players that lost in the FA Cup, not with a rotated team. Like Jose's Mourinho, when he won the title with that really good Chelsea side with Diego Costa, they crashed out to Bradford City. Yeah. City with Pellegrini and Aguero and David Silva and Yaya Toure, Vincent Kompany, the greatest all time, crashed out to Middlesbrough. So it happens. Yeah. So the fact that we had a heavily rotated team, even though we should have beat Plymouth, even on today as badly we played, we should still have beaten Plymouth and played better. It happens. We'll be mad, and then we'll move on to the derby because that's the most important game. If we beat Everton, this result doesn't matter.
I think that's a good point. West, our next 5 games: Everton away on Wednesday, and then a couple of days later, are home to Wolves. Then we're away to Villa, who seem to be picking up a bit of form, don't they, at the moment? Had a good window, I reckon. Then we're away to City. And then we're home to Newcastle. Is Wednesday the derby on Wednesday? Is that a bigger game than today?
Yeah, because for me it's one of the ones where it's like we lost the battle, but we won the war. So that's how I see it now. It's like, okay, we lost today, but then win against Everton, go 9 points, and win against Wolves. Okay, I can be relaxed, but I'm just disappointed where like the lads just lost to Plymouth. Like they lost on the log. This is the disappointing part to me. Like they lost on the log of the championship. They're not doing well, and they just went there and just got the results on us. So that's the thing that's pissing me off. But then if we win against Everton and win the next 5 games, this game I'll actually forget about it, to be honest.
Absolutely. Let me just find the comment from Leslie. Stu is we spoke about it a little bit just a second ago, but is Elliott turning into a complimentary piece of the squad? Well, it's going to ring in my ears, that comment, but is there something in it?
Maybe, possibly. I think the only thing, like, sort of, I've only ever been concerned with Elliott is his physical stature in the game, and whether he has like sort of the stamina and the pace to like sort of last a full 90 minutes in a gegenpress style sort of formation game style. I don't think he can. He's not a Zoboslai.
Yeah.
So bear in mind, Zoboslai's engine is incredible. It is ridiculous. But yeah, at the moment, Elliott, for me, it's sad to say that I really want him to do well at the club, but he's just not done enough to be a starter at the moment for me. There are players that are ahead of him. Today, like I said, he had a chance to really prove himself. Perhaps being that, I suppose you could say, senior member in that midfield three, maybe was a little bit too much for him. I don't know. But yeah, it's disappointing. I wanted to see a lot more from him today. But as a compliment, I think I don't particularly like that term. I don't know. It's a tough one. It's a tough one. I suppose in a way, it is just saying that he is a squad player. He's not a first teamer. He's just a squad player.
I love him, but I still can't tell you where he plays.
Yeah, and that's part of the problem as well. Yeah, we don't really know what his, and I don't think he really knows either. And when the player doesn't really know, then you got issues. He doesn't play as a 6. He's definitely not a winger. He can play as a 10, but I think probably plays best as between an 8 and a 6. I think
it's hard, isn't it? Because we've spoken about this before, but in the system that kind of like slot sets up with, where you've got your kind of like, you know, double pivots effectively at the back, usually in now Gravenberg, McAllister, which requires a lot from your 10. So your 10 who sits in front has to be 2 10s effectively, don't they? Because they have to get across the pitch either side, press, and also get back. And like you've already alluded to, the engine of Szoboszlai is something else, isn't it? Like he's got the hair, he's got the smile,
he's got the looks, he's got the engine.
But he won't put his laces through the ball, will he? Not like he does for the Hungarian national team. But anyway, they're my own issues. So for number 10, he needs you need to effectively have the amalgamation of 2 10s in that role to get across the pitch. And we've spoken about Harvey Elliott sometimes struggling to track the runner, struggling to physically stay with, and he hasn't got the burst as he can't get past players like Szoboszlai can, he just skips past.
I think he operates best when he's turned and he's facing towards the attacking end, and he's got that vision because he's got the passing range, he's got the shooting range, but I just don't think he's got the and he ever will do. Actually, I just don't think that's him. He doesn't have that engine to keep on constantly going backwards and forwards. He needs to be a person who sits for a little while, so to speak.
I think the Harvey Elliott thing, like I think all those are perfectly fair points. I think that's why we've seen him play Szoboszlai so much, is because of that intensity of how he likes his 10 to play. Like people keep saying this, and I keep trying to understand that what slot is having this team play as is that the 10 is not playing as a 10, it's playing as a second forward, essentially. Like you're playing as essentially like, you know, a false 9, half between way, a false 9, a 10,
a deep lying forward,
a deep lying forward. Yeah, exactly. So because if you look at our pressing shape, it's very 4-2-4. It's very much, you see Szoboszlai next to the center forward. It's also why I've pushed back against, I think some people's thoughts that we sell Nunez, because I'm thinking, who else are you really buying in the market right now that's going to have the size, the pace, that's already coached in a pressing system that can do it for the most part, that can play in the system? Maybe a Sheshko, maybe Isak's not a pressing forward, so you'd have to coach him into that. And people are saying that Liverpool are preparing to pay 120 million for Alexander Isak, which is just absolutely ridiculous. I know what Alexander Isak is not worth 120 million pounds. I am so sorry. Like, you're not going to win anything with Alexander Isak for 120 when you have to solve other problems down the line. I love Isak. Not trying to turn this to the Isak slander show. I think he's a wonderful player, great striker. With Harvey, I think the problem with Harvey has always been, I mean, Klopp said it himself, his greatest regret is that he didn't play Harvey Elliott enough on his side. And we actually changed the team to accommodate Harvey Elliott because he was so unique before his injury at Leeds. That was the 21-22 season when we played that. Remember when we went to that fast start, our second, the last title challenge we had that went to the last day. I just think with Harvey, it's just like, I think Stu's right. I think he's much better playing on the half turn or facing forward, very much in a traditional 10 way. But Harvey is also a grinder, a grafter. He is very tactically switched on and aware. But I think that what you don't have with Harvey is that if you don't have the platform, he can't provide the platform himself. Like Szoboszlai with his physicality can, but I think Harvey really can. If you're not getting the, like today you saw when you don't have his passing range, when his crossing isn't there, when he's just a little bit off of it tactically, you're not really getting as much as you would like. But here's the thing. I love Harvey Elliott. I think let's say call him a complimentary player. I wouldn't go that far. I think that Harvey can work in this team as a player, and I would never. I've always thought that Harvey, there would be a time where we sell Harvey Elliott because he just doesn't work anymore. Klopp rated him, Slot rated him for most of the summer. I think that you never count out Harvey Elliott because he's someone who wants to play, who's willing to learn and adapt. And there have been so many times when he's shown such great tactical awareness, such great ability on the ball. You just don't sell good players like that at 21 unless you're getting an absolute like killer like amount. I think that you can in a team like Liverpool with the amount of great players we have already, even if we lose some in the summer or sell some on and buy some more in, having a Harvey Elliott there is just so important because he's still young. He's 21. He has all the talent in the world, but he grafts like nothing on earth. And that's, you need that in your side to show the youth players, one, you have a pathway, but that even if it's not like you're not quite fitting what the manager wants, he'll still back you to play at certain points if you're grafting, if you're giving everything he wants in these situations. And I think that's what we have to kind of take away from this and not try to reach too many far conclusions because I think it was very physical for Harvey today. But I think part of that problem is not that he can't deal with physicality. I think he deals with physicality well. I think that he can't be the only one attracting all the physical attention. Like Harvey Elliott's not going to attract 4 players, spin them and play a ball. He can do man v man or 1v2. But again, you have to kind of build the team with Harvey Elliott's strengths and weaknesses in mind, like any good coach building a team.
I think what's interesting though, because a lot of people kind of make reference to the slight tactical tweaks that obviously goes from a Klopp starting 11 to a Slot starting 11, and that midfield's key, isn't it? Because under Klopp, you had all-in counts at CDM and Fabinho, who could just gobble up across the back, athletic, especially for his first couple of years, could get across that back four, which would allow Henderson, Wijnaldum, Thiago at times to just be able to just sit in pockets of space. And although there was chaos flying around them in Trent, Robbo, Mane, Salah, Firmino, that part of the pitch just had a bit of freedom to it, which allowed kind of your Harvey Elliott to have a little bit more space and time surrounded by these really athletic players. But is he now in a similar situation as we found ourselves with Fabio Carvalho? Because I couldn't put a position on him either. And I love Harvey Elliott. I think his attitude's amazing. The interview he gave after, which game was it? It was the Champions League game, where he was interviewed by BT Sports, basically saying he's going to work as hard as he can to get into this 11. That's what he wants, wasn't it? We were talking behind the scenes around Vinicius Junior and why he probably hasn't got the kind of mentality to come into Liverpool. I know that's quite a harsh statement. It's probably going to cause all kind of dramatic comments, but at the same time, he hasn't, has he? Someone who just doesn't turn up to a Champions League kind of ceremony because he finishes second probably isn't the kind of player that we really would be going for. It's the Harvey Elliott kind of mentality that you want. West, is there? I know probably it's difficult to pluck positives out of the performance. If you look at that 11 and you could switch one of the players around in terms of kind of like position, and you think actually I'd bring someone in for that, someone really kind of not let themselves down, but you look at it and there's a gaping hole there in terms of recruitment, because that wasn't our first 11, was it? So what position on the pitch effectively did you look at today and think we need to improve there?
I'm not gonna look at the midfield because like McCullough and Nola, for me personally, they did well. They did as much as they could. I look at the attack, as you said, like I saw the 7-2-2, and I thought it was a lie, to be honest. I thought it was a lie. They were lying. I'm like, nah, they're trying to banter us. Then I looked at the stats. So I think maybe up front, like it was like I was seeing the ball going side to side, but I never saw the ball go to Chiesa or Luis Diaz. So like if someone I would have brought the guy Mohamed Salah like to come maybe change the game up for us. But then like I still look at their performance like I expect these players to raise their hands up. Like I don't like saying I'm gonna bring Salah, should have brought in the players. No, like I trust these players to raise their hands and say, you know what, coach, trust me. Just like Harvey Elliott, just like Jota, Nunes. Because I know in the next game Diaz is going to start in the 9. Let's be honest. I don't see Jota or Nunes starting in the Everton game. So like this type of games where I expect you guys to raise your hands up and say, you know what, coach, stop playing the left wing and play me. I'm a proper 9. Here's how I look at it, to be honest.
Yeah, opportunity. Leicester just kind of highlighted Vinicius Junior's profile is the most Liverpool forward profile ever. I've put 2 profiles in and just reading ahead. He's so direct, so intense. Only issues is he conducts himself like Bruno Fernandes. Bob on, but that's why we didn't sign Bruno Fernandes. And that pretty much backs the point up. Talent-wise, unbelievable. But when Van Dijk finished second in the Champions League, he fulfilled himself with unbelievable Champions League Ballon d'Or. He filled himself with unbelievable class, didn't he? You don't have to put your hand up, West. You can interrupt me.
Oh, sorry. Like when we say he talks about Vinicius Junior, like Vinicius Junior does not try back. Vinicius Junior is always up front. So I don't. He is direct, cool, and all, but then like there's certain games where I watch Vinicius Junior and he just doesn't. He can't be bothered, to be honest. He has that world star mentality in his head. And you saying he's not turning up for the Ballon d'Ors, that's also a Cooper Sheety mentality, to be honest. So Vinicius Junior is good at all, but then like, I was watching the Copa del Rey game and I saw Moji complain, come and defend, and he couldn't be bothered. Like, come on, imagine Van Dijk telling him, come and defend. He's telling Van Dijk, oh, I can't be bothered. Like, we'll look at him a bit different, to be honest.
I think one issue effectively, so there's something in what Leicester is saying is that when Slot comes in and he looks at the squad and, there's a concerted effort not to really do too much in that first kind of like window. But 2 of the players that we were heavily linked with, and some more than others, was Anthony Gordon, where for what we kind of like understand, there was a medical done while he was away, or on the verge of being done while he was away with England. So he's identified already coming in about the winger's ability to go past the player. Because if you look at one of Anthony Gordon's strengths, he's rapid, isn't he?
Yeah.
And he just flies past play. We don't have many players like that. Luis Diaz probably most of that profile, but we don't have many players that fly past the player. And the other one was Zubamendi, wasn't it? Who himself is quite a unique 6, very, very 6-5-yard passes consistently. They were the 2 areas that Slot himself kind of like looked at and whether he agreed or pushed. Stu, we spoke briefly just before. Is there anywhere on that pitch today where you think there's a gaping hole now?
Well, I'm gonna take it back to something that I was thinking about during the game, and it only just dawned on me that January transfer window we didn't get anything done. A bit of hoo-ha in the fan forums, but why didn't we get anything done? Blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And then the club turn around and say it's going to be a big summer. Now we can take them at face value for that and say, yeah, okay, it is going to be a big summer. If we take them at face value for that, we potentially could have a full starting 11 plus more leaving the club this summer. That's a huge amount of players leaving.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of replacements to come in. Little bit daunting on that side of things. And I'm pretty sure the club probably won't want that to happen that way, because that 11 in my mind of players who could leave also includes Trent, Salah, and Verge. Because at the end of the day, they've not signed the contract, so who knows? So potentially 11 or more players, we could have a lot of positions to fill. And we could be in a very, very sticky situation. Whereas we could have virtually half a squad that we need to gel ready for a new season. I hope
some pre-season now, isn't it?
Yeah, I hope we are ready for that because that is a potential on the horizon of what could happen. Because what you think, like, so I'll run through the names that I had in my mind. Yeah. Kelleher being one. Okay, so we got Marmadashvili to come in to replace him. Preemptive, fine, not a problem. But then you got Simicas, Gomez, are probably two defenders, and then you got Trent potentially as well. Forwards wise, Diaz, I think, is a potential. Jota and Nunes. So there are a lot of players there that you think, that's a lot of gaps to fill. And a lot of spending that is going to be needed. So I really hope, all in all, that the club is serious that it's going to be a big summer. Because that's what it's looking like to me at the moment.
It's mad to have so many question marks over so many players, isn't it? I can't think back to under Klopp's time where there was so many questions. You always had the Mane Salah kind of thing, didn't you? Where they were kind of like giving each other daggers and whatever. But there wasn't many. There wasn't many where you kind of like look at, and it was quite a strong unit in that sense. You're absolutely right when you take a step back and look at the players that you've just reeled off.
Oh, there's Endo as well. Endo. I think the one set part of the squad at the moment is that midfield.
Yeah.
Or probably one or two additions, but the rest of it, there's a lot of players that are going to be shifted out. And I said I don't think the likes of Jota and Gomez are going to last with their injury records. I don't think Slot's going to have it. At the end of the day, this is basically, for all intents and purposes, a Klopp squad still.
Yeah.
And Slot is there just along for the ride, so to speak, with Klopp's squad. He hasn't really got a stamp on it yet.
No.
So I think we could potentially have a very, very busy summer.
Dan Stu makes a really good point. Even if you kind of like look at the starting 11 that we usually do, you've got Alisson with all the stuff behind the scenes with Mamardashvili coming in. I suppose there's question marks of some capacity there, even though I love Alisson. Then obviously Trent's not signing his contract. You know, Verge still hasn't signed the contract from what we understand. Canate, there was talks around kind of like a contract, wasn't an extension. And then he come out a couple of weeks ago and went, is there? Which doesn't fill you full of confidence. And then you've kind of got Robbo at left back, who's dropped off a lot, as they Simicast question marks. That midfield that Stu alluded to, Gravenberg, he's not going anywhere, is he? I think we'd just absolutely lock him in. He's not going anywhere. Same with McAllister, perfection. But then we're still kind of like weighing up another centre midfielder. Salah hasn't signed a new deal. Darwin Núñez, constant question marks around. And in Luis Diaz, there was some flirting with La Liga, wasn't there, in this summer? And that's our starting 11. What's going to happen in the summer, Dan?
Oh god, I mean, so we've had this discussion a lot, and I think that we are creating more scenarios in our head that I think Liverpool are probably willing to deal with. So let's hypothesize that all three go: Verge, Trent, and Mo both walk on freeze. Let's just say that goes. Worst case scenario happens. In that scenario, I don't think they sell anyone. I think they'll just go and buy the 4 players that they've probably identified, the 3 to 4 players they already identified to bring in. Maybe one more for a position that they need. But I think they've already started planning ahead for that reality. Granted, it's not a reality I think any of us want to live in. I don't want to live in that reality if I have to. Especially if I can keep like Verge. If I can keep Verge, I'll be okay. If Mo and Trent go, I think if Mo and Trent go, you can make decisions to alleviate those changes. Listen, Salah's been amazing this year, and I'm not trying to take anything away from him. I'm not trying to say there wouldn't be some sort of drop off or change in our attack. Obviously, if you lose a top player, there will be. However, historically, every time Mo's been out of the team, we've played very well because we've tweaked a little bit and it's a bit more orthodox in how we attack. So last year when Mo was out, that's when Núñez and Jota were playing essentially as a 2. And it looked amazing. Like we beat Brentford 4-1. The only problem is everyone got injured that game. So that kind of ruined that season for us. I think that where I think we're lacking right now is the key areas is defense, mostly at fullback. I think you can make an argument for a right back, a center back, or a left back, or one that can do all 3, which is why I don't think Gomez goes. Because with the young player that came in, like right now, we all feel very confident in Bradley, but we don't really have another right back outside of Bradley, unless you want to count Gomez as the right back. And if you count Gomez as the right back, then you need a center back because you need at least 4 senior center backs, I would argue, in a squad to be competitive. People want 5 and 6. I'm not Arsenal. I'm not George Graham. I don't need 6 center backs. Give me 4 good center backs, and that's it. We all think Simicast or Robbo will go. I'm less convinced unless again they get an offer they like. And I think in the left back position, you have Chambers and Beck that you can make decisions on. So their decision might be for left back, we'll keep Chambers, we'll let Simicast go, and we'll rotate between Robertson and Chambers, unless a Gutierrez or someone that we highly rate we get to bring in. And then we can let them fight it out between Gutierrez or Chambers or Beck who starts. But I think Beck is most likely going to be sold. Midfield, I think that if they buy a player, it's mostly going to be someone that's between the ages of McAllister and McConnell. I don't think you're going to, like, Morton's going to go. He hasn't really played that much. I think they'll keep Endo, again, unless they get an offer they really like, but I doubt that someone's going to throw something at Wataru Endo. I think Endo's fine with being the James Milner. For attack, if Salah goes, we still have 5 good attackers. Regardless of how bad they've played, the question marks on players, this is what they decided to do when we let Mane go and Firmino go. We went from saying we have 3 forwards and then a handful of like match plug-in players like Origi or Takumi Minamino or Jordan Shaqiri, very, very much complementary players, as Lassetti said, to more. We have five very solid attackers that we could rotate at a basis if Salah goes. I think if Salah goes, you buy an attacker. If Salah goes and Trent goes, your market is attacker, defender, center back, and a left back will probably be your 3 ones that you buy, with a 4th one being either another midfielder or a right back specialized. I don't think that really changes priority unless Virgil van Dijk goes. And I think that's the crux because of just how good Virgil van Dijk is. And I think I didn't appreciate that until this year, how good Virgil van Dijk is as a center back. And listen, if all 3 go, they'll have to do a lot. I don't think they're going to let 11 go, as Stu says. I understand why he's saying that because you can see 11 going potentially. But if they win it all this year, if they win a Premier League, if they win a Champions League, and they win the League Cup, if Slot does a trip, what's the phrase? Not a double, a cup triple. What's for a cup triple, Craig? What's the British treble? There we go. I couldn't think of the word. If we do a cup treble. And then they clear out 10 players and we do a bit of a city rebuild for a year, I think that wouldn't be the worst idea in the world if they decide we need to clear all this space and just restart it. I don't think that would be the worst idea in the world. I'm not saying we all should accept that reality. I'm just saying as an idea of cleaning, like you mentioned cleaning out and rebuilding. But the thing is that right now what you're trying to buy is a very, very specific profile player. You're not trying to rebuild in the sense of give the players 2 to 3 years to get good. You're trying to rebuild in the sense of like a Ryan Gravenberch, which is like in 6 months, you're going to be world class. So it doesn't matter how many they buy. It matters what really matters is buying the right player. Like Mamardashvili, if Mamardashvili comes in, he knocks Alisson off and he's the best goalkeeper, no one cares. The Kelleher left or Yaros is 3rd choice. If Gutierrez comes in, he rips the jersey off Robertson, and Simicat and is the starting left back. No one cares. If Colin Bradley's the best right back in the world, no one cares. My point being is that they can do a lot of things going forward, but I think the reason why they were never going to do anything in January was because there is just nothing out there for you at the price you want to do. Look at the money City has spent, and they're still a bit crap. Marmoush, great. Marmoush is a good player. They're playing him exactly how I would have played him. The Uzbek center back, it's going to take him time to come up to speed. Like City have way more problems they need to solve than we do. Chelsea didn't do much because they bought half the world and they need to figure out what to do with them. Arsenal don't really have a forward. They've bought more center backs and are buying more defensive midfielders and complaining more about the PGMLO. That was their transfer strategy. So there's so much they can do, and they're going to have to probably bring in 4 players regardless of who goes in this summer. But I don't think we should get a situation where if X amount goes, we need to bring X in. That sort of mentality, because you don't buy a player just to buy a player. It just does not work. Again, going back to Rafa loved to do that, buy a fullback just for the sake of buying a fullback, but the fullback didn't really work Like your Fab Aurelios, like again, great player, just never really worked at Liverpool. Your who's the commentator we don't like? What's his name? Stephen Warnock.
Okay.
Like a Warnock, or having a player like I like Martin Tyler. He's just a United fan. There's just so much we can do. But the biggest picture coming in is that we're gonna have 15. We have 15 days and 5 league games, and that's gonna be the gauntlet that I think maybe not decides the title, but decides when is the title decided. So it's gonna set it's gonna set the floor of the title challenge, the derby. If we set that floor very high, if we go on a winning streak, I think the title's done by March. If it's a bit wishy-washy, don't quite seal it, or somebody drops some points, we drop some points, title probably won't be decided till late April, May. And obviously, if it's a disaster, then it's just going to be anxiety ridden. So no, we're not going to entertain that reality. I think big picture wise, we're all in a strong position. I don't think anybody should take anything away from this game that is anything other than Liverpool is still great. We just played crap.
Yeah. Stu, is the derby on Wednesday a bigger game than today?
Hell yeah. Ain't no doubt about that. No, I mean, the connotations of it is it's a Merseyside derby. That's big enough in itself. But it's a Merseyside derby, the last ever one at Goodison.
Good.
Ever at that shithole of a ground. And also for the fact that it's our game in hand at the top of the league. Just add that little bit of extra spice to it. And add in David Moyes being back and getting Everton ticking along a little bit better, shall I say. Not that I'm too worried, because I think our first 11 will be fine. But that little uptick in form, Merseyside derby, does have me a little bit apprehensive. A little bit. But it's a Merseyside derby. There's no bigger game besides the Man United game on the Liverpool calendar. And it's the fact that it's the last one at Goodison as well. God, I really want to go out with a bang. And I just rub it in.
It kind of puts things into perspective when you kind of look at the game on Wednesday. So having a little scroll on social media just before this, fans were fuming, weren't they, the results of Plymouth? Rightly so, terrible performance. But you have to kind of look at the kind of like bigger picture effectively, don't you? What if we put our strongest 11 out to Plymouth and Ryan Gravenberch picks up an injury? Like what do we do then?
Exactly.
Going into Wednesday. So we have to just be mindful. We're always hot-headed as Liverpool fans, aren't we? But at the same time, Wednesday feels like a much bigger game because it is. The ramifications of it go 9 points clear.
And that sets the floor. And that sets the floor of the title challenge. I think that's what we have to remember is that this game is to make us level on games with Arsenal. Then we're pretty much playing the same exact day. So this is setting the floor, not the ceiling, the floor of the title challenge of where it's going to be at.
And the pressure there under. Do we play Wolves before they play?
Yeah.
As well. So there's the possibility of going 12.
I think like a day before, maybe an hour before.
Yeah.
Stu. I know we have like 1 or 2 games where we play like a day, but we play a Saturday, play a Sunday. Or we play like an hour before. But yeah, no, absolutely. And that's what we have to
pressure.
see.
Suddenly, even in the table, 12 points can feel a bit kind of
12 points at this point of the season with no games in hand. That's just
no. Sorry, it's Leicester Arsenal on Saturday, and we got Wolves on the Sunday.
Okay,
so they played before us. Yeah. So
even them going into that game potentially 9 points behind puts them under a lot of pressure, doesn't it? No slip ups allowed for because say they do, and then we've got Wolves at home. That could be brutal. And at the same time as well, West. We spoke before about Wednesday being a bit of a bigger game. If we think about the kind of like bigger picture, a lot of kind of like noise on social media with regards to kind of like the performance of Plymouth, terrible performance. We put out the strongest 11, we lose a couple of key players. How are you feeling about the kind of running over the next 5 games, West? So we've got some tricky fixtures coming up. Was it the right thing to do to put such a weak squad out in this FA Cup?
Yes, yes. To me, I agree with Slot making those shits. I don't get where people social media criticize Slot. Like as you said, if Gravenberch goes in there, gets a knock, we're gonna still complain. Why is Slot playing
Yeah.
Gravenberch against Plymouth? So like I agree. I know I lost today. I know I'm pissed off, but then like as I said, we lost the battle, but we won the war. So like I look at the bigger picture, the games we have running. I saw we have Newcastle, I saw we have Aston Villa, and I saw we have Man City. Wolves is only our easiest games, and I know games are not one on paper, but then Wolves is a game where I feel more confident to win. But then the other three, Man City brought players, Aston Villa brought attacking players, Newcastle is
Mhm.
dangerous by itself. Like they gave us problems at their home ground. So I expect this game will be tough too. Even last year, I remember when we played them, that wasn't an easy game, even though the score will flatter us, but then it wasn't it wasn't a game where we just walked through them. Like they really came back. So like I look at like this running. I think that in these 5 games, we win those games. I think we go. I'll be
And
wearing glasses very soon.
and as kind of like Stu alluded to as well, they're going to be up for it on Wednesday, aren't they?
Oh
Got
yeah.
David Moyes, the thought of kind of like knocking our kind of like lead on the head a little bit, because Everton don't play for anything really, do they? This is their final performance for the season. They haven't really got much going on. And
Their
at the
bread and
same
butter.
and at the same time as well, what they would feel would be bragging rights of knocking us off our perch a little bit in terms of taking that point gap away, could potentially cost us the title. You're gonna have David Moyes kind of really banging that drum for them players that are going to go out there against us in the windy, dilapidated stadium. The last time we kind of like play there, I'm just taken aback by one of the comments, just because it's kind of caught my attention. Is Gary kind of like suggests that Jota's finished at Liverpool. Plymouth played well, but it wasn't good enough. I love Jota. I think he's I think he's our most natural finisher in the squad. Never looks shocked, scores unbelievable amount of headers for his height, size, the ability to read the game and the space that he generally has. I love Shota. But you've got to kind of think, Slot came in and wanted pace in them wide positions. And the reason being is that you can pull the defence and fragment them a little bit to free up a little bit of space. At the minute, we're all just a little bit pedestrian. I think that'll probably come up in the summer in terms of adding a bit of pace to that kind of front line, because Salah's a different forward now, isn't he, to the Salah we signed? The Salah we signed when he got that goal against Watford, when Firmino flicked the ball over and he outpaced about 6 of them to come round the outside. That's not him anymore. He's more kind of like...
I'm inclined to agree. I think the likes of Jota, with their injury records, it's I think the Liverpool careers are on the chopping block a little bit, because it comes down to injury records and their availability.
Yeah.
And let's face it, Jota has not been available, not as much as we'd like, and we know what he can do, but it's just unfortunate. At the end of the day, you need your players to stay fit, and the ones who have stayed fit this season. But unfortunately, the likely subjects that are the usual offenders for injuries have been cropping up again. So
one that's regularly fit, and we'll probably kind of like close with this kind of like question because we're nearly out of time, is that Nunes starting against Everton, which Abdi kind of like brings. So I'll kind of like close with, which, I'd be a little bit concerned about that, but I suppose we'll close with who's going to be your front line, who's going to be your front three against Everton on Wednesday. Dan, who'd you go with?
Oh, you go Gakpo, Darwin, Salah with Diaz and Jota on the bench to come on, because like they're gonna put O'Brien at right back. They're gonna probably, I don't know who they've been playing at left back, if it's the Ukrainian lad they've been having. I don't know who's been watching. Have you been watching Everton, Craig? Who they've been playing at left back? Do you know who they've been playing at left back?
Mikolenko.
Yeah,
there we go.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So it's gonna be O'Brien. It's gonna be O'Brien, Tarkovsky, and who else has been playing there? Not Holgate's not there anymore. Anyways, the point being,
Braithwaite.
That's right.
Yeah.
They're playing Braithwaite and Mikolenko. It's gonna pretty much be a back three, back four, back five. It's David Moyes, so it's not Sean Dyche. So they're gonna probably try and play a little bit. You just go with Gakpo, Darwin, and Salah, because at worst, you're going to be dangerous for the first half. having Gakpo, who's been in good form, and Darwin to stretch that line. They're not going to want to push up too much, but you need someone to at least batter that back line. The thing about this game is that if Liverpool don't get sucked into the emotion, I think we beat them. I think we beat them because they're not good. If they play the game, not the occasion, I think we're perfect. If we play the occasion, not the game, kind of like last year, I think we all got a little bit into the emotion and then everyone lost their heads, Klopp, the players. I think if we play the game and not the occasion, we'll win comfortably because we just have so much. We're just so much better than them. If he starts Diaz, which is possible, but Darwin didn't start today and he came off the bench. If he starts Diaz, it'll probably be kind of similar to what we've seen recently, which is where it takes a little bit to get into the game. Maybe we get an early goal, we get a nice little bit of play, and then we bring on Darwin and Jota later on. But again, the most important thing about this game is don't give Everton an early goal. Like set pieces, corners. We've only conceded one goal from corner all year, so inshallah that keeps going. As long as we play, again, like I said, as long as we keep our heads, we play the game, we'll beat them. We'll beat Everton. Pickford's crap. They're not a very good side. They're not a very good team. They do have there is danger there. And again, we just lost to Plymouth 1-0. So listen, you can lose to any team. It's not. I don't want to take that away from anybody. But we should have plenty for the side. There's no one there that really that Beto is not that good. In India, the guy who's been scoring their goals recently, Dwight McNeil's not there, and I think without McNeil, they don't really have someone that can do both the attacking and the defending. So I start Darwin, and I'm essentially going to Everton saying, yeah, you think this is going to be fun. You're about to get Darwin Núñez for 65, 70 minutes. And then if that's not enough, we're going to throw Jota on to probably close up the game.
Good shout. Stu, who starts up front on Wednesday?
Well, I totally agree, actually. I want to see a bit of pace and aggression up front. So I want to see Núñez. I just keeping my fingers crossed he can keep his head. I'm not getting too involved into the occasion. Gakpo starts hands down for me at the moment. By far one of the most on-fire left wingers in all of Europe. And Salah goes without saying. I don't see anything different from that at the moment. I don't think Diaz has done enough, and Jota hasn't done enough just about. So it's about pace and aggression, and that's what we need up front against Everton more than anything else. I think the team pretty much writes itself, actually, at the moment, besides whether Trent's going to be fit or not.
West, are you going to make it 3 for 3? Who starts up front for you on Wednesday?
I agree with everyone. I think I'll start down Núñez, but then that's all I want. But then I don't see Slot starting. I see Slot going with Luis Diaz in the 9. But then for Núñez to just run behind him, because I don't think they're quick enough. Tchaikovsky is the slowest player in the Premier League. Brentwaite is 50-50, so I think I'll start down Núñez to just run behind him, and Salah and Gakpo just as the usual front three. So yeah, I just pray, as I agree with Stu, I just pray Núñez doesn't lose his head. I just pray on that.
And that's why it's going to be really intriguing, isn't it, on Wednesday as well? Because they're going to play a low block. And what you need for that? So do you need Diaz, who's going to drop deeper and pull them out a little bit, or do you go the other way and throw Núñez at him?
Well, I think the thing is you do Darwin because if you can make that line keep dropping, if you drop the line literally to the goal line, to the byline, that's what you want to do with a low block. I feel like we always get focused on low block. That what you want to do with a low block is that you want to, we want to pull them apart, but also you want to push them deeper and deeper. You want to push them so deep into their half that you just pin them in. Because if you're making them do 8-yard shuffles all the time and they can't break out, that's how you break a low block.
You want to push them as far back as possible, like the Spartans did with the Persians into the Aegean, off the cliff. There you go.
And then
so far back that they can't get back out.
Well, that's it. And then pace becomes redundant, doesn't it, really? Because there's nothing to run into. So then maybe your Gakpo, it was just on fire at the minute, as well as will be a deal breaker. Breaker, I don't know. For the 3,500 people watching, thank you for joining us today. Make sure that you kind of like us on YouTube, hit that notifications as well, so you can see the glorious insight of West, Stu, and Dan next time. It's been an absolute pleasure. So thank you from myself, from Dan, from West, and from Stu. Join us tomorrow. We'll be back on again. And in the meantime, have a fab night. Bye, everyone.